And now they're looking at China under a microscope, and every time they look somewhere and find something incredibly obvious for a smoking gun, China immediately says, oh, you're racist. But now everyone's like, no, look at you, you're racist. Only a racist would evict people from their homes during a pandemic, bioweapon outbreak that you created, steal their passports, while simultaneously sending the sick people back, while simultaneously trying to still harvest their organs. I mean, you see what I'm saying? So they got caught red-handed trying to do something.
Yeah,
the police
they take the passports from the healthy people that are still there in their country, and they evict them from their homes, and they target them for human trafficking and organ harvesting. And the same goes for here in America, what they've been doing on their in California. They've been contriving poverty and homelessness intentionally because you have a more vulnerable population to gang stalking and human trafficking. And that's the other thing. And they use these NGOs, these non-governmental organizations, what do they call them? What do they call those? Community Watch and
Justice.
Yeah, and Antifa, those types, different organizations to gang stalk and target people for potential, human trafficking. So this has been occurring for, at least a decade. Are you there?
No, I'm here. I'm just listening.
Yeah, no, I just want to point that out because it's not just the war on our men and boys and with the, recruiting them younger and younger to get them hooked on these hormones and medications that they have to take for the rest of their lives, but they're also actively contriving homelessness and poverty in our communities in California. And this has been going on for decades. So, yeah, I just want to kind of wrap up the show with that. I don't know. Do you have anything else to add?
I mean, the only thing I have to add is that what I don't think people understand is that part of why, so the bankers had taken over America through the entrapment of blackmail by getting you to come to a party, drugging you, getting you to have sex with a child, and then, rape a child, sexually assault a child, and then kill that child, and then they had you on camera, and eventually they would just keep inviting you. And after a while, as a cultural moment and a turning point, mentally you just kind of went along with it, and you wonder why politicians keep voting for things that are treasonous or totally an affront to your rights or your freedom or theft of your money and your property. And you're wondering, why are they doing this? And now you know why. Eventually the Chinese figured out we should do the same thing. So now you end up in a situation where what we have here of the reason why China became the figurehead for them trying to roll out their quote-unquote, one world loser order is that China was like, we're going to compromise all of those people the same way. So now you have a situation where a politician or some figurehead will do something in favor of China, and then those same people who are in control of that person and have them compromised will, corner them and say, why are you doing this for China? I told you not to do that. I'll expose you. And then they have to look them dead in the face and say, hey, man, listen, China's got me too. What was I supposed to do? Get busted? If I get busted by China, I'm no good to you either. So then these people eventually figured, these bankers and these other, pedo cartels, eventually realized, well, we need to go have a talk with China. And then they came to the realization, wait a minute, we all want the same thing. Yeah, we do. Okay. And that's where all of this shifted during that Bush administration, with the vomiting at the dinner thing. You know what I mean? That was when all of that really started to change, where China was like, okay, we're just going to start doing what you do. And that's why you have people who are openly, like Feinstein, and a whole, Hillary, Bill, a myriad of other people in China sampling the wares and then they get caught, and they don't think the Chinese are going to, like, you know, do that to them. But then at the same time they do, and then by the time you look up and you're in that social environment, you know, you've had the merger of two human trafficking and organ harvesting and drug, you know, peddling and, you know, distribution networks merging, and you didn't know. And that's what we're seeing right now, is that's why no one ever stood up to China, because your people are compromised by those people and people back home, but those people from back home that compromise them and are blackmailing them are actively conducting, you know, have pretty much had a closet merger between the two, you know, demonic organizations. And now we're finding out. That's what we're looking at.
And I'm not going to talk about it on
that merger.
I'm not going to. I want to discuss this at some point, but I'm not going to talk about it right now. But I want to talk about the inverted version of the women's. It's sort of what do you call it? Like the women's empowerment movement. You know, I'm with her whole thing, which is completely false, and it's inverted. It's inverted. It's a false women's empowerment sort of. It doesn't come from real the real version of that. But I'll go into that at a later date on another episode.
How did Hillary help you during the quarantine, ladies? How did Hillary help you during the quarantine, fellas? How did Bernie help you during the quarantine? Not a peep from Bernie. Not a peep from Hillary. Not a peep from Tulsi Gabbard. Not a peep from Mitt Romney. Not a peep from any. The only people that were trying to talk to you were these retards out of Hollywood who were losing their minds because they couldn't go out and get treated famous. So meanwhile, they've got their little gophers. And you best believe the people who are their runners that go get their stuff so they don't have to go out in public were their least favorite person. And the reason why was because they wish to God a Uber Grabs person would have showed up to drop off a hamburger so they could get some attention from them. If not fear of the virus or the bioweapon, right? So that's the psychosis. You know, never mind the fact that they're all tritating from not having their, you know, their baby blood, you know, looking like Ellen, melting. I mean, for the love of God, SNL did one of its skits in their own apartments. It's ridiculous. Come on, people. Come on. Like, everybody, you gotta wake up. You got, like, they just showed you, listen, do you think the Pope is mad at China because China's telling the Pope who the Pope can be, who the Chinese Pope gets to be? No, he's mad because they cut them out of the freaking child trafficking ring in China. Wow. But most people don't know Hillary was the one at the behest of one of the other people in the Catholic Church, if you read her emails, that helped create an Arab Spring within the Catholic Church to get rid of Ratzinger. They're not using veiled terminology. They say it very clearly. Can you help us, you know, have our own Arab Spring in the Catholic Church to get rid of them? We'd be more than happy to help you. And then go look how much money the Catholic Church donated to, you know, the Global Clinton Initiative. You know, go ahead, look. I mean, but again, like, you gotta go look. I'm talking to you about it. Listen, we are talking to you about this stuff. But if you don't go and Google or use DuckDuckGo or use Opera, Mozilla, or any other search engine, I mean, for God's sakes, even Bing, is Bing even still a thing? Showing my age. So, you know, or Edge, right? If you're not even, Microsoft Edge, if you're not even using any means of going to go get the information, you know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to do other than to just look at you like, well, they didn't go look for themselves? Don't be one of those people where someone tells you something and then you don't understand it until 2 months later when there's no way for the media to lie to you about it. Or 2 years later or 2 months later. You know, I'm not saying get so sucked into this stuff you can't do anything else with your life. You still got to have a life, but you need to know what's happening around you so that you can start making informed decisions. Why would you buy a Lamborghini if Italy's not even making them anymore? Because they got to go buy ventilators now. You know, there's a potential that whatever Ferraris are, you know, on the market right now, when things get back to normal, I'm using quotation, right? Those Ferraris will be worth a ton of money because no one drove them around for a while. You know, those were the last ones they made before all the Ferraris had to be electric because, you know what I mean? Like, there's a situation where no one's trying to use oil. Even though oil's cheap now, it's still not fuel efficient. You get what I'm saying? Like, there is an entire paradigm that has shoved your old reality into a 6-foot rectangular shaped hole and is shoveling dirt on it while it's crying and saying, please, I'll be good. Just let me out. It's dead. It's over. You have to use discernment and go look. I mean, at this point, I'm just blowing hot air, but I'm letting you know, listen, man, it's insane what's right there in front of you if you just do your own research. It's okay. Google can't even hide this stuff anymore from you if you just look. Don't stop at that first page. Go down 10 pages. Go look through 10 pages of that initial Google search. You did the search, it says, there's 57,000 hits. If you don't go any deeper than 10 pages, I guarantee you'll find what they're trying to hide from you on the second page. I guarantee it. They know you won't look past the first page, let alone the third. You know?
It's brutal.
Or you won't look past the third page, let alone the first one.
Yeah. David, I thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and I think this is like one of my longest shows I've ever hosted. And I appreciate it so much. And you are always welcome back. But I got to wrap it up. I know you're in Vietnam, but
I do want to say one thing, just so you know, there's more Chinese spies who are not Chinese and are Chinese in America than there are anywhere else, except for maybe Australia. It's probably a coin toss, but there's more Black or African American Chinese spies in America and disinformation agents than there are anywhere else. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. There are more African-American Chinese spies whose job it is to keep...
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, whose job it is to keep the African-American community for voting in their own best interests, you know, along the lines of the Republican Party. Like, most people won't even tell you the Democrats know that they've already lost anywhere from 40 to 50% of the African American vote to Donald Trump, even though they're not saying it. So they have to continuously come out. Listen, they would love to have you think that some, you know, white supremacist is running around shooting people up in the African American community right now, but it would mess up their COVID-19 money. So they can't afford it. They can't afford it. Mind blow. Mind blow.
Wow.
Insanity. But yeah, wow. That's another conversation next time we talk.
It's been heavy.
It's another conversation.
It's been real. Yeah, to be continued. Thank you so much, David. Stand by. I'm just going to conclude the podcast. Okay? Or I'll call you right back. Is that...
It sounds fair.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, I'll call you right back. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to my listeners in the live chat. I hope you join me again for my next podcast that I'm going to be hosting with activist Paula Flo, the founder of the Hitting Stops Here. We're going to be educating and celebrating the historical and inaugural observance of International Boys Day, which is May 16th. And it's dedicating a special day to boys and focusing on their well-being. It's just like International Girls' Day, but it's for boys. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the education system regarding our boys, and then a little bit more, controversial stuff, like always. So